It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical, Mainz and Dutts. I'm your host, Mainz, and my colleague in a danger zone in Rainford is Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
For once, I've received a jab, and I'm quite happy about it.
Neil, vaccinated up to F, as we used to say in the olden days. Me too. We're one down, one to go, before we can mess up the mean streets of Europe once again.
First vaccination, completed it, mate.
Completed. Are you an English vaccine or a German vaccine, man?
I believe I'm the Oxford. AstraZeneca or whatever it is.
AstraZeneca. So I've gone straight Pfizer.
See, I thought AstraZeneca played for Leipzig.
I think AstraZeneca does play for Leipzig, but he also, in his spare time, makes vaccination for global pandemics, which is super awesome.
It's a good side gig.
Yeah, if you can get it. Good job if you can get it. Neil, this week we have the brilliant Mark Schofield back with us. It must be draft season. It must be time to talk quarterbacks. And hopefully he'll give us a bit of, confidence about our own team's quarterback situations. I doubt it highly.
Why would he want to?
Yeah, we've also got a couple of classic weird worlds, which involve Zoom and videos of another sort.
Zoom and boobies.
Zoom and boobies, indeed. And we'll give you a bit of NFL news as well, as some things have happened since the last time we were with you. Let's start straight away with Zoom and boobies. So Neil, classic weird worlds this week. One that we were sent to by a close personal friend of ours. Headline says it all, really. OnlyFans mum says her kids were expelled from school within 24 hours, notice via email. I know what you're thinking, Neil. What's OnlyFans? I don't know either. Let's interrogate. A mum who had her children kicked out of school because of a $150,000 per month OnlyFans career. This is highlighted in red like it's a hyperlink, like it wants me to click on it. For those who are unaware, OnlyFans is something where you pay to see other people do things. It may not be boobies. There's the male equivalent as well, right? And so you were entered into their house to see them, I don't know, play with toys and the likes.
Lego.
Yeah, exactly right. I don't know. Some people probably do it with Lego, Neil. I don't know.
You're not here to judge.
No, I just want to reiterate a £150,000 a month OnlyFans career.
Nice work if you can get it.
Well, anyone can get it. It's whether you're going to get £150,000 for the privilege.
Narrator voice, no, he won't.
Yeah, narrator voice. Yeah, not today. Not today. Ahead of this, their kids received 24-hour notice via an email telling that 3 young kids were no longer welcome at the school. This is where it gets magnificent, right? Crystal Jackson or Mrs. Poindexter, because Crystal Jackson wasn't a porno name enough.
Yeah, I was thinking that. It's baked in redundancy there, love.
Started up her account sharing pictures, some of which contain nudity. After sharing a picture on Reddit in an attempt to spice up her relationship with her husband. However, it quickly snowballed and now she's been left looking for a new school for her children. And the 44-year-old from Sacramento, California, was sent an email which confirmed their kids would no longer be allowed back onto the school, even to pick up their things. CBS 13 returned the email, which read, "Your apparent quest for high-profile controversy in support of your adult website is in direct conflict with what we hope to impart to our students," obviously not being naked. I have a question, Neil, as we should all do, and there's only one question to this. Who found out, and how did they explain to their missus that they'd found out that the girl in Becky's class was also, her mum was also getting her boobs out?
I think this is a testament to the scrupulous and dedicated nature of parents in this class to thoroughly vet every parent of every other child. So obviously going through, the social media accounts of, I don't know what average school sizes are in the Sacramento area, but, 25, 30 maybe. So obviously going through, looking at, Twitter accounts, Facebook accounts, LinkedIn profiles, Pornhub, X-Hamster, things like that, and then just finally came to OnlyFans and realised, oh my God, look, there they are. That can be the only legitimate way, I think, another parent or the school came upon this.
There's two ironic things about it, right? One is, I'm not 100% sure, unless your parent is a mass murderer of kids, that it should make any difference what your parent does as a career. Also, what I also found brilliant about this is, giving all the news headlines related to this has only drawn attention to the school and to the mum even more, whose £150,000 a month scheme probably now is somewhere in the region of 250,000, and she could now probably buy the school or buy entry into any other school that she wishes in the California region.
Yeah, I mean, as we know, any school or institute of educational learning that tethers itself to a religious doctrine, we know that, of course, that all religions are whiter than white.
Correct.
They are pure as the driven snow and have never, ever, ever been caused or linked to any suffering of any kind for any individuals or group of people. So it's only right that this school takes a principled stance against the antics of a married lady who wishes to profit off her sexuality.
Let's move on, Neil.
As I take my tongue out of my cheek, yeah.
Exactly right. Plastic surgeon turns up for Zoom court hearing while in the middle of operating on a patient. I can barely tap myself on the head and rub my belly. This dude's in court and operating on a patient. This is California Day here on Waxing the Court. A Californian plastic surgeon.
Up your game, Florida.
Yeah, your move, Florida, your move. A Californian plastic surgeon has been investigated after he attended a virtual court hearing while operating on a patient. Dr. Scott Green, I'm not sure that's his real name, reportedly turned up for the video conference which concerned a traffic violation while in an operating room and wearing surgical scrubs. According to the Sacramento Bee, yes, that is the name of a newspaper, beeps of medical machinery could be heard during the Zoom call, and the patient's procedure was taking place just out of view. This reminds me greatly of a friend of ours who highlighted that he was on a Teams call with someone else in his team, an older gentleman who had to rush to go to the toilet and forgot to put it on mute and did a massive dump, and everyone could hear it.
Not quite the same, but I can see, it's
that kind of, can everyone keep the noise down? I've just got to use the phone, and then you forget to put it on mute. You know what I mean? These things happen. Oh,
frequently.
Can't believe that wanker's talking again. Paul, you're on mute. You're not on mute. Oh, fuck. Okay. What's the greatest thing you've done while doing something else?
Greatest thing I've done while doing something else. I occasionally do my work while I'm writing for other publications. I don't know. I mean, I did. There was a fellow I played cricket with called Dr. Vinay, and he was a cardiovascular surgeon, and literally he would have to disappear occasionally, often immediately after the game, to go and operate on people, which is a good excuse for why you can't go and get the boundary flags or put the chairs away. It's not a great one. Because it's like, surely you don't need to be doing heart surgery every week, Doc. But I don't know myself. I mean, because generally I like to think I'm a good multitasker, but I'm really not.
Yeah, I think everyone likes to believe they're good at that until, as I said, you try and tap yourself on the head and rub your belly. Yeah,
which, as I say, if I tried to do that now, I'd be on the floor.
Rubbing, it just wouldn't be working right.
Even though I'm sat down, I guarantee if I tried to do that, there'd be, knee sprains.
You'd definitely fall over.
Head injuries. And, I used to be good at multitasking, I think. Whereas, as I'm getting older, no. I've only got the attention span, the energy to do one thing. And I can't even do that one thing particularly well anymore. So, no. I mean, how do we know, though, that he wasn't just being a smart-ass and he's turned up in scrubs and he had an episode of ER playing?
I know, because later on in the story, the courtroom clerk said, you're at trial, sir, and you're in an operating theatre. He said, yeah, it's fine, I can do both. That was his.
No, you can't, mate. And if you think you can, you probably can't.
Yeah. If you love the Weird Whale stories as much as me and Neil, please send them to us at waxing_lyrical or individually. I am at Mandy7 and Neil is at ndutton13. Neil, let's move on and chat a little bit about a couple of interesting pieces of NFL news this week. JJ Watt decided that he'd rather go and live somewhere where it's 72 and sunny than win a Super Bowl by signing for the Arizona Cardinals for a lot of money. Neil, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that the idea that the Houston Texans releasing JJ Watt was the actions of a classy organisation, when the fact that now 11 people are saying, that they would have been paying him to go there and that they couldn't have traded him and got something from it, is absolute horse shit. It is the desperate PR gamble of a team that is by no stretch of the imagination classy. JJ Watt is landing on a team that already had a good defence, and now you add to it the fact that they're going to have Watt. They should have Chandler Jones healthy again next year. Maybe another year's growth in the system for Isaiah Simmons. If they get Hassan Reddick back, he came on strong towards the back end of the season. Basically, they're saying, we've got this side of the ball cleared. We're good. So, Cliff, if you could just stop throwing wide receiver screens for 2 minutes and maybe enhance this offense, we can actually do something. But I'll tell you what, I can see why the Seattle Seahawks want to run the ball, because I don't want to be dropping back and passing against the NFC West defensive front.
Yeah, there was a definite, Russell, as Sierra said to him, I see that JJ Watt signed for Arizona. Can't now, love. I'm on the phone with the Chicago Bears, begging them to give Pete Carroll lots of running backs and draft picks so I don't have to be here any longer.
How many times are you going to get sacked this year, Russell? Unlimited sacks.
Yes, it's an issue. It's a very good defensive line, and it's really good. And someone did highlight to me that maybe they were now one of the best teams in the division, and maybe had the best quarterback. I happen to suggest that even if those two things were true, they have comfortably the fourth worst coach, and that is a major issue in all this. You were nice and said stop throwing wide receiver screens. I'd say be better at coaching, Cliff. Because if you're not, you'll be immediately fired.
When you have a head coach who is obsessed with kickers scoring points, as Denny Carter is, then this is an issue. When your goal is to get into the red zone and kick field goals in the NFL, we're gonna fall out.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you're going to do that, then don't class yourself as an offensive mastermind, because those two things don't work. Pete Carroll should be obsessed with getting into the red zone and kicking field goals, not Cliff Kingsbury.
I think you're just playing with fire if your name's Cliff and you spell it with a K. This is always going to happen.
Next story, Neil. Alex Smith released by the Washington football team after he set them on fire in a GQ advert. Behave yourself, firstly. I assume he's the next Jacksonville Jaguars backup quarterback.
That seems to be the screaming possibility. There is, of course, the fact that Chicago have said they want Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson wants Chicago, and they'll end up with Alex Smith. That would, of course, be hilarious, as they then would try and franchise tag Allen Robinson and try and sell him on the fact, look, it's Nick Foles or Alex Smith, mate. What more could you want in the year 2021? Alex Smith, obviously, in his GQ article, it seemed to be that, I'm not going to say it led to his release, but I'm certainly going to suggest that it was probably... he only said this because he thought it was going to happen, because he was free from 17 surgeries to be the only Washington quarterback last year to post a winning record. Sort of went against the plans of the team. Granted, the plans of the team were the fact that the first-round pick they'd spent on a quarterback the year before wasn't going to be set on fire by him being a total head case. But I digress. Yeah, it's a weird one, but is it the weirdest thing Washington have ever done? Absolutely not.
I don't understand how you think it's weird. I don't understand how you think it's weird. Like, the weird thing is that he played last year. There's nothing weird about cutting him. Saves you millions and millions of dollars. Saves you millions and millions of dollars, and also we all watched him, and yes, he did win because he is a professional quarterback. But we all watched him win through our fingers and prayed that he wasn't hit by anyone. Because if he did, he would be seriously hurt.
Yeah,
we on this show multiple times said he should retire and shouldn't do this. He proved us all wrong. Congratulations. Now please retire.
I think he was a player that I had Washington cutting.
Yeah, I did too.
It's what's the PR term? It's the optics of the situation that he comes out and does his GQ article and then he gets cut. It smacks of bitterness and spite from a team that have excelled at bitterness and spite over the last 20 years.
You knew he was going to get caught the day the season ended. I knew he was going to get caught the day the season ended. They can only cut him at a certain point, and in between that, you set the franchise on fire. Like, what are you going to do? I was going to cut you anyway. Bravo. Like, okay. You know, at the moment, Washington are not the laughingstock of the NFC East. Actually, like, second or first. So, get away from this bad karma that you're pushing on my franchise for one moment and suggest this is a sensible football move. And we're not here for lollipops and second place trophies.
Business and spite.
On that note, Neil, we're going to talk about our quarterbacks. One of them's Tyler Heineke. I don't know why we're doing it, but Neil suggested that we should. Let's get Mark Schofield on the phone. He's brilliant. He knows about quarterbacks and he will tell us what's going on in this year's draft. And joining us now on Wax and Lyrical, it's a privilege and an honour to welcome back Mark Schofield. Mark, how the heck are we?
I'm alive, gentlemen. I am alive, which is all you can ask for in 2021. How are you guys doing?
We're both still alive, barely. I think, as we just said off air, all three of us counting down the hours until our kids F off out of our houses and go to school.
Yeah. It's been a year of them doing the virtual learning on this end, and I cannot wait until they get to go back. It's going to be a joy that first day, although they're staggered it. So, like, our daughter, she's in first grade. She'll go back 4 days a week. But our son, who's in fourth grade, he doesn't go back. And so my daughter goes back mid-March. Owen doesn't go back until April. And he goes every other week. So he's still going to be here for a while. So that's going to be a bit. But that first week, they're both in school. That first day, it's going to be a joy.
One of them, a friend of mine who's a comedian and a parent, he says, so when kids are going back on the 8th of March, he said the amount of fuck all he's going to get done on the 8th of March is going to be award-winning.
I know. I mean, I have just, like the other day, I tried to escape and take a nap for like 30 minutes. And within like 13 seconds of my head hitting the pillow, it was like kids running upstairs, like running in and out of the bedroom. The cats are jumping on me. I'm just like, I can't get. And I'm lucky in the sense that I'm down in our basement. My office is in our basement. But our daughter, she does the virtual school in the next room. And, you know, God bless her, at the end of every class, heard a bunch of like 20 other first graders like yelling bye to everybody, and she's like making plans with the kid across the street, her friend Mayara. I'll see you outside in 15 seconds. And it's just like, I'm trying to record a podcast here. I'm trying to record a show. Okay. It's just been chaos. But I guess it's better than the alternative. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. On to podcasts, on to your work on the NFL draft. I'm going to just hijack Neil's questions because you've just told us off air that you're looking at Justin Fields as we speak. And the question that me and Neil have is he an athlete playing quarterback or is he an athletic quarterback?
I think he's more athletic quarterback. And I know that there have been reservations about Justin Fields, particularly in the past couple of days, past week or so. You know, Tony Pauline over Pro Football Network was relaying some concerns that NFL teams have had about Justin Fields from a process and speed standpoint, from a progression standpoint, you know, calling him a one-read quarterback. And I will say that I did share those concerns, say, last year. You know, last year when I watched Justin Fields to get ready for this season, watched that first game of his against Clemson, I shared some of those concerns. I thought Fields was a quarterback that would get to the right answer on a play, but sometimes a second too late. And as I sort of made the analogy, playing quarterbacks, it's a test, it's an examination, but it's not a take-home exam. It's not like Oxford University where you have 24 hours to write an essay. It's a timed examination and the clock's ticking. And so I wanted to see him get faster on a given play from down to down this season. And I think in large part he's done that. Now, there were two games that I think people still have concerns over. That Northwestern game and that Indiana game, which I was literally just watching again. And, he made some mistakes in those games. He certainly had some bad moments in those games. But I think in particular that Indiana game, he had 2 interceptions early, but he sort of battled back from those. And you could still see examples of him working through reads, working through progressions, looking off receivers and things like that. And so, I think those concerns were warranted once upon a time, but I don't think they're as warranted now. He's certainly athletic, but I don't think it's a case of, look, this is a super athlete trying to play quarterback. This is a athletic quarterback that, has some things that he needs to develop, but I think he's in the process of doing that.
I did watch a few of videos that JT O'Sullivan at the quarterback school had done watching Justin Fields, and he pointed out that there are throws that he makes that are NFL throws. This isn't a little bubble screen here, there. He says little bubble screen like I complete one. These are throws that seasoned veteran NFL quarterbacks might struggle to make. But there are moments where, and this is I say it's a criticism. It's something that a lot of modern mobile quarterbacks seem to be accused of. Occasionally, he's just too quick to get out the pocket when because he is because he is athletic. He will trust his feet sometimes more than he'll trust his arm. But as I say, if we're going to ding everyone for doing that, then we wouldn't have a game.
Right. Yeah. And, JT's absolutely right that there are some throws that he makes. Even in this Indiana game, he had a sort of boundary curl route from the right hash mark to the left sideline over one defender in front of the cornerback, which is just, the trajectory, the arm talent, the angle and everything. Just an incredible throw that some NFL quarterbacks might not try. So there are certainly moments watching Justin Fields where you're like, look, the arm talent is extremely impressive. And that's something that is a prerequisite to playing in the National Football League. Does he trust his legs sometimes too much? I think so. And I think it can be a crutch for some young quarterbacks when, you have that ability to just move around, beat a defender to the edge. If you don't like what you're seeing, maybe something's kind of open, but you're not quite sure, you'll just pull the ball down and go. That's something that he'll have to sort of learn to not do as much, because it's one thing beating guys to the edge that are going to be investment bankers in a year. It's another thing trying to do that against the Von Millers and the Khalil Macks of the world. They'll be able to beat you to the edge, and they'll put a licking on you when you get there. And so you have to learn that sometimes, that first mode of escape isn't going to be a trump card you can play in the National Football League. So, I think it's something he'll have to learn. But all quarterbacks go through that. Lamar Jackson's going through that right now. Josh Allen has had his battles with that. So it's something that he'll have to learn at the next level.
Moving on to another quarterback who, I think there seems to be some kind of paralysis regarding Trevor Lawrence. It's almost as if he's been written about as being so good for so long, people might be just getting a bit bored of him. So along that lines, we know how good he is. He's been, he was a superstar 3 years ago. We all know what he's good at. Is there anything in particular though that you've seen that you're not? It's not that's it, he'll never make it, but that you might be a bit more worried about that no one else seems to be talking about.
Neil, I don't think that there's anything that people haven't talked about, because I think you're right. People have sort of started to give Trevor Lawrence the Deshaun Watson death by 1,000 cuts treatment over the past, say, 6 months. And I think a lot of the concerns that we're hearing now about Trevor Lawrence were similar to Fields. They were valid a year ago. His 2019 tape wasn't great. This season, I think, absent a couple of plays here and there, he's been fantastic. I do think that there are two areas where, if you want to find things wrong with him, you can focus on. I think the Clemson offense was simplified to an extent because it could be. Not that he couldn't run a more complex offense, but a lot of one-on-one matchup reads, a lot of tunnel screens, throws at or near the line of scrimmage, where he could certainly be doing more in that offense, but they didn't need to. And then I think you look at sort of the ball placement in the intermediate areas of the field. There were times when it wasn't as ideal. There were times when he perhaps missed on throws or didn't miss on a throw, but put it to the wrong shoulder, the wrong hip, and that cost the receiver an opportunity for yardage after the catch. And so, I think there are nitpicky things you can say about Trevor Lawrence, but I think right now, if you're putting Trevor Lawrence quarterback 2, quarterback 3, quarterback 4, like, you might be sort of looking for a reason to do that. I think he's still as solid as it gets. And I think that, look, if you're Jacksonville, you draft him 1, you don't overthink it. I think if you have the opportunity, say, in a fantasy league to draft him, you take it. I think people are seeking out reasons to be paranoid about him. I think he's as clean as it gets.
The one thing that I had, one of my friends was talking about, and I think it's not just regarding Trevor Lawrence, it's also about Urban Meyer, is that they are going to an organisation that has become synonymous with ineptitude and losing, at least over the last decade, whereas Lawrence and Urban Meyer don't do that and haven't done that. Is there a danger that, that they could become infected with this losing mentality? Or is this a good chance to actually inject a winning mentality at every level they can?
Look, he's not going to be drafted by Newcastle United. I mean, he's going to be okay. Look, I think when you look at Jacksonville in particular, have they sort of struggled to get over the top? Yeah. I mean, some AFC Championship game losses, that sort of cycle of ineptitude. You're looking at a team that has picks in the top 97 of the draft and has a ton of cap space. And so there's an opportunity here to really turn this team around overnight. So that's one good thing for them. And the other is, look, say what you want about Urban Meyer, and he's gotten off to a bit of a rocky start with some of the hires that he made. This is a coach that has shown with some different quarterbacks in his past to tailor the offense to what his quarterbacks do and do well. We talk about somebody that turned Alex Smith at Utah into the first overall pick, somebody that then had an offense where he was having Tim Tebow throw jump passes at the line of scrimmage, and then rebuilt an Ohio State offense around guys like, J.T. Barrett and Cardell Patterson. And so he's going to mold that draft capital and that cap space into an offense suited for Trevor Lawrence. And so it's set up for success and perhaps quick success. Is there a fear that Jacksonville will stumble along the way? Yeah. Is there a fear that Trevor Lawrence could bust? It's possible. Stranger things have happened. But I don't think this is a situation where you can expect them to languish for years. I think there's an opportunity here for a very quick turnaround with the draft capital they have, with the salary cap space they have, and with Trevor Lawrence coming off the board first.
Every year there's a player who, for the less college experts like me and Neil, you haven't heard of at the start of the year, who jumps up to be like top of the boards at the end of the year. This year it's Zach Wilson. People knew about Justin Fields. People knew about Trevor Lawrence. People even knew about Trey Lance if you did some digging. But Zach Wilson wasn't one of those players from BYU. Where has he come from, and do you expect his trajectory to continue?
I mean, he did sort of come out of nowhere. He put up some rather pedestrian numbers the past couple of seasons at BYU. Touchdown and interception ratio wasn't great. Certainly not great for college. Certainly not great for somebody that we might have a QB1 the next year. But he put up tremendous numbers this season. The production was sort of off the charts. And there are reasons why people might have him QB1, QB2. You look at the arm talent, the athleticism, the throws he can make off platform, off of structure, outside the design of a play, the arm aggression. Jordan Reed sort of terms it that way, the audacity to make some throws and challenge some windows perhaps in the downfield passing game that other quarterbacks will shy away from. Those are all things that he does and does at a high level. And as much as like Patrick Mahomes comps I think are absurd, you can certainly see that play style to his game, which will work in today's NFL. As far as whether his career trajectory will continue like that, a lot of it will depend on where he ends up and the sort of scheme fit that he's going to be dropped into. I think there's a reason why you see a lot of connections between him and the New York Jets at that second overall pick, that sort of LaFleur style of offense, outside zone, play action, boot action, getting him outside of the pocket. I think that's a system that's sort of tailor-made to him. The hesitation will be what would his eventual ceiling be, because we've seen some quarterbacks in that system, it almost stunts their development. Jared Goff, a prime example, where he became a first overall pick, good, but never quite realized what he could be. Maybe that offense almost hamstrung him from a developmental standpoint because Sean McVay put so much on him in terms of training wheels. And now he's a Detroit Lion. You can see that sort of situation perhaps play out in that offense. Benjamin Solak over at BGN wrote a great piece about, that kind of offense and how it's propped up some quarterbacks, and could the same thing happen to Zach Wilson. So, in terms of where his developmental arc goes, that's a question mark. I do think a lot of it will end up with scheme fit and where he ends up in terms of a landing spot, but there's certainly no denying the talent. Maybe it did sort of come out from nowhere, but it's not like the Dwayne Haskins, Mitchell Trubisky's one-year starter. Is he going to be able to continue that? This is a guy that's played a lot, got a lot of experience to him. He finally put it together this season. And so it's not like a one-year flash in the pan kind of fear. It's okay, well, just can he duplicate this going forward?
If we use the Jets as a landing spot, Mark, are we then saying, in your opinion, would it make more sense to cut bait with Darnold because of what he's been through, and maybe the fact that the scheme fit with LaFleur would be better for Wilson than it would be for Darnold?
I mean, interestingly enough, I think, when they first made the hire of Robert Saleh, then the LaFleur hire, then, the offensive line hire, who I think is going to be, again, that sort of outside zone coming from San Francisco. My first initial gut reaction was you could sort of revitalize Sam Darnold in this. I think that same type of offense could be used to sort of prop up Sam Darnold. And it's important to remember that 2 years under Adam Gase might not be the best sort of way to measure Sam Darnold. Obviously, Gase has that reputation as a quarterback whisperer, but it was built on the back of Peyton Manning. And I think most people, if they got to coach Peyton Manning for a year or two, could walk away from that being labeled a quarterback guru or quarterback whisperer. I mean, Mike Katz could have done that. It's basically, here you go, Peyton. Here's the playbook. I'll be at the golf course. And so I think, look, if you're the Jets, I think this draft is so fascinating after one. Because if you're the Jets, you get the 2 first-round picks. You could decide, hey, we'll flip those. We'll trade out. If somebody wants to come up and get a quarterback, we'll run it back with Darnold. We'll get an extra first-round pick along the way. Now you've got 3 picks to build around Sam Darnold. Because I do think the Jets have more needs than just quarterback. And if they decide, look, we're going to take this as one more year to evaluate Sam, and we'll pick up a future first-rounder by trading back, give yourself a bite at the quarterback apple next year if you need to. Or they could decide, look, we're going to cut bait with Sam Darnold, we'll get some draft capital, and we'll draft a quarterback there. Or they could just stay at 2 and draft best player available, whoever they like the most, whether it's a receiver, a tackle, whatever. And so they have so many different pathways, and I always like when teams give themselves different ways to be the roster they want to be. So I don't think that the scheme fit necessarily means that, yep, they're definitely going after Zach Wilson. I think they could run that back with Darnold, but they've got themselves a couple of different options to pursue with that second overall pick and the draft capital along with that.
You mentioned, the fact that Wilson wasn't a one-year starter, because obviously he did have the 2 ordinary years before coming out strong in 2020. For a variety of reasons, Trey Lance was only a one-year starter, and obviously not at the highest level of college football. Now, whenever we're talking about people who've, they've had limited experience as starters, as you say, you mentioned your boy Trubisky, you think back to Mark Sanchez. Is there a worry with Trey Lance because it's a small sample size at a lower level, or has he shown you enough to think that it's not actually that big a concern?
I mean, I think there's concerns. 1 year in a game, FCS level, and a lot of people take Mac Jones, for example, as a parallel. A lot of people say, look, Mac Jones is playing around so much talent. Alabama was always the better team in all but 2 games. The same could be true for Trey Lance at NDSU. NDSU is like the Alabama of the FCS. And, even that first year as a starter, as a redshirt freshman, he knew the guys around him were better than the guys on the other side of the ball. Now, look, 28 touchdowns, no interceptions, and plus 1,000 rushing yards in your first year as a starter. That's impressive. But there's going to be that sort of concern. There's going to be that boom bust conversation about Trey Lance where, look, if it goes well, you might get all pro Bowl type of quarterback. But if it doesn't, you might be, if you drafted this kid, you might be looking for a new job. And there's a discussion to be had about risk reward, risk averse general managers and decision makers and things like that. But I think what people will like about Trey Lance, the scheme fit, the college pro style offense, and the potential and the talent. Because you could look at Trey Lance, drop him into the 49ers playbook right now, and you could see it working overnight. I mean, under center, 21 personnel, thrown to the fullback out of the backfield, thrown to the tight ends. That's the stuff he does. Those under center play action drops with the back to the defense. That's the stuff he does that these other guys aren't doing. And what does that matter? Well, try reading the defense when your back is turned to it. Like, it cuts down that decision-making window, whereas these other guys got 4 seconds during the entire flow of the play to read the defense. He's got 2, and say what you want about level of competition and the guys on the other side of the ball. When he's trying to make these reads in half the time and he's making them right on time in rhythm, that's pretty impressive. So there are things that he does that I think teams will like. There's the easy arm talent. Yes, Zach Wilson has an incredible arm, a B+, A- kind of arm. Trey Lance has the A arm. Zach Wilson is hitching up and stepping into these throws. Lance, it's all arm. It's easy velocity without stepping into it and loading up for those kinds of throws. And so he does a lot that teams will love, a lot that coaches will love, but there is that sort of risk-reward balance. And let's put it this way. If you're a general manager sitting, like, say, 9 in the draft, and you need a quarterback, and you've got Trey Lance and Mac Jones staring you in the face, if you draft one and over the other and it fails, which one is going to let you keep your job? The Alabama kid or the FCS kid? Like, that's the thing that might come into play this draft cycle.
We have also, seen, of course, that, there is no danger of drafting no danger of drafting a North Dakota State quarterback very high in the draft and, living to regret it years later.
My understanding is if you do that, you win a Super Bowl within 2 years, so I don't see what everyone's effing problem is.
If you sign Nick Foles.
Oh, that's right. That was the bit that I missed. Mark, you've seen all these quarterbacks, and we ask every year who's this year's Schofield crush in terms of the one who you fell in love with the most so far.
Yeah, and it's so funny, guys. Usually, I've got this like day 3 guy, this guy that's going to get drafted on the 3rd day and put up like 7 for 19 for 84 yards and a pick in the Hall of Fame game, and I'm going to be out there still banging the table for him like Brett Rippon a couple of years ago. This quarterback class, it really falls off a cliff after Mac Jones. Like there's a reason why you look at some like the Draft Network. I think on their big board, Jones is at 46, and then it's Kyle Trask at like 135. Like there's gonna be a gap. This quarterback class really sort of falls off. I don't really have a guy like say late in the draft that I'm like, oh man, like this guy's an all-pro waiting to happen. You can see like say a Kellen Mond or Jamie Newman or an Ian Book, Brady White, the Memphis kid. Like they've got potential, but I don't really have the confidence about those guys that I did in some day 3 guys years ago. I think the guys I've enjoyed watching all these guys at the top. The one that I've had the most fun watching, I think, is Trey Lance. He's somebody that just, you can see the potential, you can see the talent, you can see the athleticism, the arm strength, you can see the things that he's asked to do in that NDSU offense that these other guys aren't asked to do. And I do think that matters. I do think that he's somebody that in the golden, before times of the combine, he would get on the whiteboard in that hotel suite and just sort of knock it out of the park. Now I guess he'll have to do it over Zoom like the rest of us have to. But I do think that there's something to like about this kid, and he's young. He's somebody that I think the ceiling is such that if you're going to take a swing in the first round of this draft, I think you bet on upside, you bet on potential, and I think you'll like what you see in this kid.
We know from other podcasts that you've done, Mark, that you're a big one for historical anecdotes and whatnot. So I have a historical anecdote. There was a podcast about centered mainly around the Philadelphia Eagles. One of the co-hosts of this then buggered off to get a job with SB Nation, and nothing seems to have happened since then. So is that the end of your involvement with Bleeding Green, or are you going to be back with Solak or someone else in 2021?
I mean, it's a ongoing discussion, Neil. Mr. Kist has left us for become an executive Kist, and he's as infuriated in the group chats and the DMs as he is on the timeline now, because as we have these battles like today's discussion about Chris Sims and his quarterback rankings has played out on the timeline itself, Michael's just behind the scenes playing video games, reading books, and just, having some intern, an unpaid intern, of course, the other discussion from this week, feeding them grapes and fanning them down. I think Mike and I have planned a final QB factory that will come out at some point. As for QB factory with Solak and Schofield, stay tuned. That is something that the people have been calling for. I think it will be a ton of fun, although I will say that Solak's a bit intimidating. Don't let that size and the age fool you. Smartly young lad, that Benjamin Solak. And so I'm not quite sure I can hand with him on a podcast on a regular basis, but do stay tuned. There are always these discussions ongoing.
Neil wrote today's rundown, Mark, so before I let you go, what he's put here, he said, I know what question's coming, guys. I don't want to answer it. Okay, I'm just going to, you don't have to answer it, but what it says is Mainz - usual Toon Army abuse. So there's two things about that. That's offensive to me because he suggests that all I'm here to do is mock Newcastle United Football Club, and that's not true, because that used to be fun, and I'm not going to lie, it was, but it's not fun anymore because this is now beyond a joke. And the other thing is, I'm not in a position wearing a Liverpool kit whose team seems to be unable to score at home anymore to discuss football. So what I'm actually going to ask is in terms of where we are with Newcastle United, would you rather watch them play or Cam Newton quarterback the New England Patriots for another year?
Wow.
That's the question to end all questions. I would honestly rather watch Cam Newton be quarterback for the New England Patriots for another season, because at least I think there's hope. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. There is no light at the end of the Newcastle United tunnel right now. There's just none. I saw a chart the other day. I forget where from, but it had points earned by each Premier League team since the Christmas holiday. And for Newcastle, it was like 0.6 points per match. They were the only team like below 1 point per match. It was just atrocious. It's a bad club. Thank God for Southampton. At least Newcastle got a win back in February 6th. That was nice to see, but it's been atrocious since then. Losing to Chelsea, losing to Man United, drawn with Wolves. It's just there's no hope. At least with Cam Newton, you could think they could put together a run game, maybe a couple of passing plays here and there. There's no hope right now. And how many years have I been on coming on with you guys and just saying they need to sell the club. They need to sell the club. And it's the same answer every time, guys. They need to sell the club. It hasn't happened. We had over Zoom sort of culture day. The kids had to dress up for Zoom lessons this week. And my son was like, well, Dad, you're part English. You like a soccer team in England. Why don't I wear one of your jerseys? And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that to you. Because on the off chance that there's one kid out there that knows where Newcastle currently is in the table, you're not going to hear it. You won't hear anything else for the rest of your life. So I can't do that to you. So it was like the one time. Usually my son's dunking on me for how bad Tom Brady was or how bad the Patriots are. But this time it's me saving him from abuse. So, yeah, I'd rather watch Cam Newton play quarterback.
Well, there we go. Neil, we now know. Mark, as always, spectacular to speak to you. Have a lovely rest of the day, and we will speak to you very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys. It's always a blast to catch up with you. Stay safe over there, okay?
Will do. And that was the brilliant Mark Schofield. As always, we leave him feeling depressed, so he probably, goes and drinks liquor from the bottle.
It's the best place to drink it from.
Neil, that has been another classic Waxing Lyrical. Before we're back again, where can people catch you?
Catch me this week on the Twitter at endbutton13. I say this week, I'm on there all the time. I have articles out this week. I'm continuing the rookie review series for RotoViz. So this week I've had Brandon Ayuk. I have Jalen Reagor pending. Then I'll finish out the wide receivers with Henry Ruggs. I've taken part in a rookie mock draft for Roto Underworld. I had the second pick, 5-round rookie mock. So that's also at State on Player Profile. You can find that there. I also have a Meet the Metric article also for Roto Underworld coming out. That's looking at advanced metrics that the site uses. This one I'm looking at unrealised air yards. And I will have another one of those out about coverage rating. These are all to introduce you to these metrics to get a better understanding of what they are and why they're useful for judging actual football and can also be used to help you make fantasy football decisions. Also, quite interestingly, I had an article out for Number Fire last week about who the Jets might take with the second overall pick. So that was for Number Fire. That was me. As I say, endbutton13. Follow me and, keep me going.
I am at Mainzy7. I have articles out on the touchdown.co.uk dealing with the NFC East. This week's one was on the absolute tire fire, which was the 2020 Philadelphia Eagles season. I'm not going to lie, I enjoyed writing every moment of it. There's lots of good stuff there. Please go and look at it. Please go and look at Neil's stuff. Combined, if you want to talk to us, we are at waxing_lyrical. Until next week, these top guys are out.